Go?
Yeah.
Mike?
You might want the mic.
Yes, please give
I
him
can
the
yell
mic.
if you like, but it's not very pretty.
Huh?
I can yell if you like, but it's not very pretty. Oh, I've even got a pocket to put it in. Okay,
That happened.
wired for sound. I've got written on here, where do I start? So, I just want to have a little prayer.
Yes.
Father, this is not about me, it's about you. And I ask that you will keep my mind in the place where you want it to be, and that only your words will come out of my mouth. And may everybody be blessed by what you share through me, is my prayer in Jesus' name.
Amen.
So somebody said to me once, "Are you open to a miracle?" And my immediate response was, "Sure. God's a God of miracles. Why wouldn't I be open to a miracle?" I never close a door. And this is the truth. I don't. But sometimes you wonder how God's going to work, because you have got certain thought process in your own mind, and it's like, you're going to have to change that, God, and I've got no idea how you're going to do it. And that's kind of where I started this process. But I guess the starting point in this, if there is a starting point, was learning not to judge myself. Even more so, not to condemn myself. Regardless of what other people said about me. God said to me once, very clearly, "Narelle, you are not identified by what that person says about you." And that happened some years ago, and to this day I hold to that promise because God said that to me. And I know that I'm not identified by things, and I know that when Mary Magdalene said, "No one, Lord," she meant herself. And to me that was one of the most profound realizations that actually gave me freedom from the most tyrannous, is that a word? Tyrannical? However that word,
Tyrannical.
I'm not an English teacher. Yeah, you know what I mean. It freed me from tyranny, because judgment and condemnation breed fear, and fear is the devil's faith, and faith is, and devil is the god of tyranny. Did that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, good. I hope that came out right. So if you believe in fear, you are believing in the devil, because you're believing what he says he will do, instead of believing the word of God to do what it says it will do. So that's my little sermon. The rest of it came out of that. And a couple of points that I wanted to make in my journey that would never have occurred in a million years if I had not lost my job. School teachers don't have a life. We live what we do, and it takes over your life. Completely takes over your life. Your thinking, your behaviour, your sleeping, your dreaming, your daytime activity, your weekend activity, everything about you, for me, I don't know, you just become completely engrossed in what you're doing, and you don't realise that there is very little outside of that. And I didn't realise that until I decided that I would not be part of what was happening, and I asked for directions from God on that, because I was I was a little bit undecided, and having put the fleece out, the answer came back, "No, don't do that." So without any questions, I no longer work as a school teacher. And from there, all sorts of things started to happen. And fear was one of the things that came into that place. But not in a way, I don't know how to describe it, because, in so many places I was I had incredible peace. but there's still this massive chasm of unknown out there. And that's God's space. I've just had to give that space to God completely. And he keeps opening up doors there. So, where do I go? So I'm thankful for not having the job that, even though I loved my kids, who are still, many of them are still in touch with me. As I said to one of my ex-colleagues, I don't miss the craziness. But I am in the 7th year of rest. And I believe God has given me a whole Sabbath of rest. And I didn't realise how exhausted I was until I actually stopped going back to work. And I was so physically exhausted. I slept for weeks. I just slept and slept and slept and slept and slept and slept. Then I had to start thinking about, well, God, you promised you will supply all my needs. And in my moments of doubt, I know Narelle a few times pointed me back to that promise, and to my fleece, saying to me, Narelle, remember your fleece, when I'm like, Narelle, I have my moments, don't you worry. And it's like, yes, God, you promised. So many times I've sort of almost grabbed God by the arm and said, you said it. And then I think that song, God said it, I believe it, and that's good enough for me. That's gone through my head so many times. So backing up to Waterford, about a couple of years back now, when you first sort of started the ministry as a worldwide, spreading everything out there and beginning to take on Bible workers and that sort of thing. In the back of my head, I had this wild little dream. Wow, wouldn't it be awesome to work in that? And then, of course, I'm working full time, and I'm not good enough to do that anyway, so don't even go there, Narelle. Well, guess what I'm doing? So you never know, God just hands things to you, and so it's been very, very timely and a blessing, of course. I went to Adrian one day, who now lives a whole 750 metres away from me. And that's another story. I think his ears are still ringing from the day that he told me that was going to happen.
That was a loud scream.
They were captive audiences in their car when they told me. It was, yeah. I went to their place one day, and I was really feeling the pressure of not having my job and transitioning mentally between wherever I was going. And I just said, Adrian, give me something to do. I'm going to go crazy. It was literally like that. Give me something to do. Please, 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 just give me something to do. And sometimes you never know what you asked for. I have lost count of how many sermons and presentations. It's gone past 40 now. Starting from the Talking Rock sermons, transcribing these sermons, series of sermons, not one sermon, but a whole series. Like in one, there were 7 or 8. The next one had 14, and the next one, and then there was the random ones in between. I actually wrote some of them down. I bet you I won't be able to find them now.
Carolyn Holquist series is one.
The Carolyn Holquist series. And then some of the ones that are more recently, sermons that have been spoken here, or as in Australia. The last Tabernacle series from here, I've gone through all of them. And then 2 series on the divine pattern. I'll probably come across them now as I scroll through my notes. You know how you can never find something when you're looking for it? And so I started reading. And I started reading, and I started reading, and I started crying. And I kept reading, wiping the tears away. And I kept reading, and I kept reading, and I'm just like, I felt like I was being washed.
Amen. Sorry.
And I kept going down to Adrian saying, I've got to get this finished. It's got to go up there. It's got to go online. I've got to get this done now. So I felt the urgency because I was being so empowered emotionally and spiritually by just going through these sermons. And the school teacher in me goes, oh, I can edit. And then we sent them off to be looked at, and all these mistakes came back, and I'm going, oh dear. There's this profound object lesson. You cannot see, you see what you want to see. You do not see what is necessarily in front of you. Now, you go work that out in your own life. But it's real when you're editing, is it not? I don't know how many times I've gone back, because I edit it, I wait a day for my brain to just sort of go, okay, refresh, press the reset button, go back, read it again, and then I'm going, how did I miss that? And so I go through, do it again, fix another 20 or 30 mistakes, and then I've got to put it aside, and then I'll go back and I better go have a look at it again because I've got to hand it over soon. And I look again and I'm going, oh, there's more. So yeah, my ego's taken a little bit of a hit, but that's a good thing. Because in all of that, I've just been incredibly blessed, because of course the more times you have to read it, the more it goes in. So if I have to read it again, well, that's a good thing. I'm just going to learn more. Okay, that's good. We've gone through all of that already. The divine pattern. Who's read anything about the divine pattern in this group? Yeah, I thought I had too. How many times have you read it?
Once.
Okay. Yeah, I thought I knew what it was until I started reading it again and again and again and again, and suddenly realising that it touches every single part of your life.
Hallelujah.
Every single little part of your life. And if you can catch the blessing, I don't even know what to say next. I'll rephrase that. Catch the blessing. Wherever you stand in that channel, catch the blessing. And this is just a whole new journey for me. And the divine pattern has just completely opened my eyes. And of course it all starts, as we know, back with the Father and Son, etc. But if you've read anything about the divine pattern once, I challenge you to do it at least 6 times before you say you know anything. At least 6 times.
Challenge accepted.
And then on the 7th time round, being the perfect number, that's when you'll start to understand it. It underpins everything. And I know it sounds really simple, but it's endless, it's timeless. This is the words that I thought. It's endless, timeless, very, very deep in all areas of life. It can be applied. How do I apply it in my life? Well, I'm still on that journey. But challenge accepted, I was challenged as well. And I have been challenged so many times. So in actually working, I almost feel guilty doing this work because of the blessings I'm receiving. And the Carolyn Holquist series, the Straight Gate series, the sermons from Tabernacles, the sermons from, I don't remember which one it was at Widgie that I did as well. Can you see those series of sermons, just get on that website and read them. And then just read them again. I don't think you've read them too many times. You'll always get something new. And the last thing I wanted to share was the story of Abigail. I started to, ironically, or by divine intervention, I started to do a series on the divine pattern, and sermon number 8 happened to be, for some reason, at the top of the list. Alphabetically, somehow it just ended up at the top of the list. And I was just thinking, oh, there's number 1, click, let's start. And I was about 3/4 of the way through it, and Adrian popped his head in, and I don't know, we were talking about something, and he goes, oh, you started on number 8. And I went, oh, really? And it was about Abigail. Now, we all know the story of Abigail. I don't have to tell you the story of Abigail. Good. I know the story of Abigail. I've listened to those cassette tapes and records and whatever, the stories of David and Abigail. I know the story of Abigail. No, I don't. I don't know the story of Abigail at all, because if I can't be Abigail, I don't know the story of Abigail. And I just sort of went, oh, I just want to be Abigail. I'm looking, what have I got to do? I can't do that. Are you serious? I'm reading, I'm going, no, it's not going to happen. And so I keep reading, and then I always got to the point of distressed because I'm thinking, I can't do this. And I read a quote about Abigail from Patriarchs and Prophets, page 667, and it says this. This is a real duh moment, okay? The Spirit of the Son of God was abiding in her soul.
Amen.
Can I be Abigail?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
That's the only way. So I've resolved myself to that, which is kind of good because it would have been a bit of a hard job to do it on my own. The acting would have come out pretty good, I suppose, but eventually I would have fallen off the bandwagon. So there you go. So I'm blessed. I'm blessed that I've lost my job. I'm blessed I've got a 7th year rest. I'm blessed to be, I'm just being totally showered in beautiful truths. I don't know how many times I've gone to Adrian's and just said, this is truth, this is truth, this is truth. And, you know, I've been kind of immersed in this, sorry for using the word stuff, you know what I mean. It's very disrespectful word, but for years and years and years and years, with all of the different theologies except for the festivals, which are part of the sermons. One of them, is it the Straight Gate series? Is it about the festivals, or the Carolyn Holquist one? Carolyn Holquist one? Yeah. That's when I was like, this is truth. No more questions. I'm here. Got me. Blessed to be immersed, flooded, overwhelmed, soaked in presentations filled with God's Spirit and truths pouring over me to push me out and pour God's blessings until I'm overflowing to fill others. And just one more tiny little thing I'll share before I close. I prayed, God, you've given me this new energy here, and there's something very special that I need to give now, because that's part of the channel of blessing. You know, it's got to get out the other end or I'm going to drown. And I prayed, God, please put someone in my life for me to give this to. And I answered an ad to babysit, just for a little bit of extra money, really. It was pretty much all about the money. And a young lady came into my life who wears dreadlocks to her waist, as does her partner, except his is in a ponytail, with 2 ADD children. And when they walked onto my property, I just thought, God, you have sent these people to me. Teach me how to love them. And I can't even go into the story very much, except that the mum, who's 27, has come from a background that your worst nightmares could not imagine. And God has given her to me to love. And I've just done the best I can over the past few weeks that I have known them, to love them. The children now call me Grandma. And Freya told me the other day that you're the mother that I've never had. So I'm passing the blessings on. And she will end up worshipping with us. It won't be too long.
Amen.
She'll be there.
Amen.
She's dying to meet Adrian, just hasn't happened yet. I've told her about so many things. So be careful what you wish for, because it just might come true. Nothing is too hard for him. And when he says, I will, it doesn't mean I might. I will. I will, I will, I will. And the one I think of course, is I will save your children. And nothing is too hard for him. And when I claim those 2 promises, mate, Louis Ferringo, just eat your heart out. The power you get in here, you know, and I think the devil's still around, but nothing's too hard for God.
Just need the mic.
But at least I'm still attached.